What if everything you knew about your life, your name, your family, your identity, was a lie? At 17, Alex discovers he's not just adopted, but the hidden son of a billionaire who vanished the day he was born. Rain pattered gently on the tin awning outside the second-floor window, a soothing hum that filled the cramped apartment like a lullaby only the walls had grown used to. Elena sat at the edge of the worn kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug. Across from her, a folded letter lay untouched. She didn't dare open it. She knew the handwriting. It hadn't changed in 20 years. In the other room, Alex's laughter floated in, mixing with the sound of video game explosions. He was 17 now. Tall, curious, brilliant in a way that startled her sometimes. He had his father's jawline, though he'd never met him. Not really. At least, that's what she told him. He believed she'd raised him alone. That his father had died in a car accident when he was a baby. That they had no other family. And that everything he had, his guitar, his laptop, his beat-up Converse, came from her sacrifices. Most of that was true. But not all. The letter was from Patrick Dane, billionaire CEO of Dane Global Holdings, and the biological father of her son. Alex didn't know he was adopted. 20 years ago, Elena had been a junior nurse at Mercy Hospital in the neonatal unit. That was when she first met Patrick and his wife Vanessa, young, glamorous, powerful. Their baby had been born early. Complications. An emergency C-section. The boy had survived, Vanessa had not. The grief broke Patrick in a way Elena hadn't seen before in anyone. He visited the hospital every day for 3 months, always alone, always silent except for small, strange conversations with the baby he named Samuel. But on the 97th day, he didn't come. That morning, hospital security and legal officers arrived. Patrick Dane had vanished. The baby, now stable, had been left without next of kin, no paperwork, no will, nothing. Just a hospital bracelet and a birth certificate missing the father's signature. Elena had already bonded with the child. She'd sung to him, fed him, held him longer than the charts allowed. When they began discussing foster placement, she did something reckless. She called in every favor, cashed out her tiny inheritance, and filed for adoption. Somehow, it worked. The system failed to notice or didn't care that Samuel Dane was now Alex Rivera. She moved to another city. Started over. Changed jobs. Took night classes to become a teacher instead of a nurse. Told no one. Now, 17 years later, the billionaire had resurfaced. The letter didn't demand anything. It wasn't written with the cold precision she expected from someone like him. It was hesitant, clumsy even. He asked how Alex was. Said he'd give anything to see him, even from a distance. No threats. No demands for custody. Just longing. Elena stared at the envelope, her thumb tracing the edge of the paper like it might cut her. She felt the familiar storm begin to rise inside her, the old guilt, the fear, the loneliness she thought she'd buried for good. In the living room, Alex called out, "Mom, you want tea?" "I'm making some." Her voice caught in her throat for a second. Then, "Yeah, sure, honey." She folded the letter back up and slid it into the drawer beneath the unpaid bills. She would not let the past take her son. But she didn't know he had already found a clue. In the back of her closet, under an old suitcase, Alex had found a faded envelope months ago. A hospital bracelet. The name, Samuel D., scribbled in black ink. He hadn't said anything. Yet. He had questions. But more than that, he had a plan. Alex wasn't snooping. Not really. He told himself that every time he slipped into her room while she was out shopping or teaching her night classes. He didn't rummage. Didn't make a mess. Just observed. Quietly. Like something inside him had started to itch the moment he turned 16 and hadn't stopped since. The bracelet had started it. It was buried beneath old scarves and expired credit cards in a cracked leather box. When he first held it, he thought it was his mom's. Then he saw the name. Samuel D. The D wasn't for Rivera. And the date, his birth date. He kept that detail to himself. Even as it chewed through his sleep and made him look at his mother with new eyes. Every time she hugged him, he felt something fracture. Every time she smiled a little too long after a question, he saw it. She was hiding something. So he dug. At night, when the Wi-Fi was spotty and the fridge buzzed too loud, he searched forums about sealed adoptions, missing persons cases, baby switch scandals. Nothing fit. Until a name appeared in an old digital archive from the hospital where he'd supposedly been born: Vanessa Dane, deceased. Infant son survived. Father, Patrick Dane. And just like that, Alex's world shifted. Patrick Dane. Billionaire. Tech king. Disappeared from the public eye for nearly 2 decades, then returned with a vengeance, cleaning house at his corporation, donating $500 million to medical research, and giving cryptic interviews about loss and redemption. There was no photo of the baby. But the timeline fit. The name fit. And the last known location of that child matched where Alex had been born. So, he started watching the men. There were videos, interviews, press conferences. Patrick had a severe face, high cheekbones, and a tightness around the mouth that never seemed to relax. He spoke like every word cost him something. In one clip, when a reporter mentioned family, his eyes darkened like someone had reached into his chest and twisted something. And in that moment, Alex saw it, a flicker. Something buried. Something shared. He wasn't angry at Elena. Not yet. He didn't even understand what she had done, if she'd lied, if she'd saved him, or both. He only knew he had to find the truth for himself. So he did something reckless. He wrote to Patrick Dane. Not under his own name. He made a new email address, used vague wording, claimed to be someone who might have information about the child. He signed it with just a letter, A. He didn't expect a reply. But one came. 4 days later. Short. Careful. Where did you find this name? Who are you? Alex stared at the message for a long time. His hands trembled. Not from fear. From something deeper, something raw and unfamiliar. Was it anger? Hope? He didn't know. But he knew what he had to do next. He responded. I think I might be him. I'm not sure. But if I am, I want to know why you left. 3 hours later, his phone buzzed. It was a call. From a private number. He hesitated. Then answered. Hello. A silence. Then a voice, older than he expected. Tired. Rough. Samuel. Alex couldn't breathe. He didn't respond. Not right away. Just sat on his bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing the word echo like a dropped stone in a deep well. Finally, I go by Alex. Another silence. Then the voice softened. I'd like to see you. He could have said no. He could have hung up. But the need was stronger than the doubt. Okay, he whispered. But you can't tell her. My mom. And he didn't know, none of them did, that Elena, on that very day, had made a decision of her own. She had opened the letter. And she was planning to meet Patrick first. To warn him. To end this. But fate, as always, doesn't wait for people to catch up. Elena stood in front of the tall glass building, her reflection fractured across the panels like a ghost split into versions of herself, one from the past, one from now, and one that shouldn't exist at all. The security guard asked her name twice before he found it on the list. He gave her a sticker, waved her through like she was just another visitor. Not a woman holding the match to a decades-old secret. The elevator carried her up silently. As she rose, her hands twitched against her coat, smoothing creases that weren't there. She'd worn the dress she always kept for parent-teacher nights, modest, navy blue, the only thing that still made her feel like she had armor. On the 39th floor, the doors opened. Patrick was already waiting. He looked older than in the videos. The hollows under his eyes were deeper, like time hadn't touched him gently. But his eyes, steel gray, unflinching, locked onto her with something Elena hadn't seen in years: guilt. Elena. She stepped into the office slowly, the door hissing shut behind her like a judge sealing a verdict. You shouldn't have found us, she said. He didn't respond at first. Just looked at her like she was a memory that didn't make sense anymore. He found me, Patrick said finally. That stopped her. Her heart stammered. Alex. He wrote. Didn't give a name, but I knew. Her breath caught like she'd swallowed a shard of glass. She moved to the window, just to turn her back, to compose something that might resemble control. He doesn't know everything, she said. He can't. It'll break him. Patrick's voice stayed low, unreadable. He's 17. He already carries more than we think. She turned around then, anger flaring. You left him. You abandoned him. And now you want, what? A reunion. A handshake. Closure. I was broken. You were rich. You could have found him anytime. Patrick winced. For once, it looked like something hit him. I came back for him. When I thought I could be a father. But he was gone. You'd already taken him. I saved him, she said, almost a whisper. You were gone for years, Patrick. I thought you'd killed yourself. No calls. No lawyer. Just vanished. What was I supposed to do? Let them hand him to the system. His voice cracked then. The first break in the wall. I left because I was afraid I'd do to him what was done to me. I was drowning. And when I came up for air, he was gone. They both stood in silence. The weight between them wasn't just grief. It was the years. The lie. The choices that never asked for permission. He's my son too, Patrick said. No, she replied. He's mine now. Patrick stepped forward. I don't want to take him from you. I just want a chance to explain. To tell him the truth. Elena's voice dropped. You think the truth is a kindness? After all this time? I think the lie will eat him alive once he sees the cracks. And he's already seeing them. She closed her eyes. There it was. The dread she'd fought for years. Alex wasn't a child anymore. He wouldn't stay in the lines she drew. Then Patrick handed her something. A letter. Unopened. Addressed to Mom. He asked me to give this to you. She took it with shaking hands. It wasn't sealed. Her fingers itched to tear it open. Instead, she asked, "Where is he?" Patrick looked down. He's waiting. Outside. He doesn't know you're here. Elena felt the walls of her carefully constructed life finally begin to collapse, not with a scream, but a soft, inevitable crumble. I need to see him first, she said. Patrick nodded. Downstairs, in a quiet corner of the lobby, Alex sat with headphones in, staring at the floor tiles like they might rearrange themselves into a map of his future. He didn't know both of his parents were in the same building. He didn't know the storm was about to break. Alex saw her the second the elevator doors opened. She hadn't spotted him yet. She stood still, scanning the lobby, her shoulders stiff, lips pressed together in that tight line she always wore when something scared her. She looked smaller than usual. Like the building swallowed her. When her eyes finally found him, they flickered, shock, then a strange kind of grief, and her pace slowed. He rose from the bench, earbuds dangling around his neck. For a long moment, neither said anything. Then Elena's voice cracked the space between them. You wrote to him. Alex didn't flinch. Yeah. How much do you know? He met her gaze, jaw set. Enough. That's not an answer. I didn't come here for answers, he said. I came to see the men who disappeared the day I was born. Elena stepped forward. You think this is that simple? That he's some noble victim and I'm just what? A liar. You are a liar. She reeled back, just a little. Like he'd hit her. Alex's voice shook now, but he didn't stop. You should have told me. I don't care if it was ugly or painful or if he left. You stole my story. Her eyes glistened, but her voice held. I gave you a life, she said. I gave you everything I had. I didn't ask for it. No. You didn't. But you needed it. He wasn't there. I was. He turned away, suddenly dizzy with heat. The world tilted. The weight of 17 years of almost crashing in. Do you even love me? He asked quietly, without looking at her. The silence that followed was more violent than a scream. Then her hands touched his shoulders, light, shaking. She came around him, slowly, so he could see her face. You think I did all this because I didn't love you, she whispered. I buried myself to keep you safe. I stopped living so you could. Alex's breath stuttered. Elena reached into her bag. Pulled out the letter. You want truth? Here's mine. She pressed it into his hand. But you don't get to decide alone. This isn't just your story, it's ours. Mine. Yours. His. All of it. He looked down at the letter, the familiar shape of his own handwriting. Then she said something she hadn't meant to say, not like this, not now, but it broke free. I didn't steal you. No one claimed you. They left you in a hospital crib. Alone. Alex's eyes snapped up. So I am adopted. Tears fell, silent and ungraceful, cutting through her mascara like rivers. I didn't want to be your second choice, she choked. But I was. And I loved you anyway. He stared at her, heart pounding. Then his hand fell limp to his side, the letter crumpling at the edge. Where is he? He asked. She didn't answer. Just nodded toward the revolving doors at the front. Alex didn't look back as he walked away. Outside, Patrick stood near the curb, sunglasses on, collar turned up. For a man so famous, he looked remarkably ordinary. His hands were in his pockets like he wasn't sure what to do with them. Alex approached. They faced each other for the first time, father and son. Neither spoke. Patrick pulled off the sunglasses slowly. His eyes were red. Not from tears, Alex guessed. From time. You look like her, he said. Alex didn't ask who. It didn't matter. He only nodded. Then, tell me why. Patrick exhaled. Because I was a coward. They stared at each other, something like honesty passing between them. But it wasn't peace. Not yet. From inside the building, Elena watched them through the glass. People moved around her. Phones rang. Life went on. But her world stood still. She didn't know if she'd lost her son forever. But she knew she couldn't keep pretending anymore. They sat in silence at a small cafe 2 blocks away. No press, no security, just two strangers trying to act like father and son, while every word they didn't say filled the air between them. Patrick stirred his coffee without drinking it. Alex let his go cold. They both avoided each other's eyes, as if direct contact might shatter the fragile truce holding them together. I used to imagine you, Patrick said finally, his voice soft. All the time. When you were a baby, I'd talk to you like you could understand. I'd say I was sorry. I'd say I'd be better. Alex didn't blink. And then you vanished. I was grieving. I couldn't breathe, let alone raise a child. That's convenient. Patrick didn't argue. Just nodded. He'd expected anger. Deserved it. I thought the hospital would hold on to you until I came back. But by the time I could, you were gone. No trace. I hired people. Investigators. But the trail was cold. I thought maybe someone had taken you. Or worse. Alex's lip curled. And all that time, we were in a 1-bedroom apartment in Jackson Heights. You were what, on a yacht? I wasn't celebrating, Patrick said flatly. I was recovering. That sounds like an excuse. It is. But it's the only one I have. He reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the table. A small, velvet-covered box. Alex eyed it like it might explode. What is that? Patrick pushed it forward. It was your mother's. Vanessa's. She wanted you to have it when you turned 18. Alex opened it slowly. Inside was a delicate silver chain with a tiny engraved charm, SD. His initials. The original ones. The ones he never knew he had. Alex stared at it like he'd found a photograph of himself in another life. I don't know who I am anymore, he said. You're whoever you choose to be, Patrick said. But I'd like to be part of that choice. Alex's fists clenched on the table. I don't trust you. I don't trust anything right now. Patrick nodded. That's fair. A long pause. Then Alex looked up, for the first time really seeing the men across from him. Why now? Why reach out? Patrick's eyes softened. Because I've built everything. The money. The empire. The legacy. But none of it means anything if the one thing I loved most doesn't know I tried. Alex swallowed hard. And her, he asked. Elena. Patrick's face changed. Not with malice, something closer to reverence. She saved you. I see that now. I'll never be able to repay her. Alex looked away. His thoughts twisted in tight, confusing loops. He hated Patrick. But he didn't. He wanted to run. But he'd come here. Something in him wanted to stay. I need time, he said quietly. Patrick leaned back. Take it. All of it. When Alex got home that night, Elena was waiting at the kitchen table. Her eyes were red. She didn't speak. Just slid a photo across the table. It was him, maybe 2 years old, asleep on her chest. She looked tired, but the kind of tired that held pride like a second heartbeat. I never wanted to be your secret, she whispered. But I would have lived with it forever if it meant you were safe. He stared at the picture. Something inside him cracked. Then, in a voice that barely made it to her ears, he said, "You were never second." She looked up, startled. "You're just the only one who never left." Tears welled again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. She opened her arms. He fell into them. And for the first time since the truth came out, they didn't feel broken. Just real. But healing is never clean. And just when they thought they might be building something new, the past made another move. Because a tabloid photo had surfaced. Alex and Patrick. Together. And the world was about to find out who Samuel Dane really was. The photograph went viral in under 6 hours. It wasn't even a clear shot, grainy, taken from behind a bush, but Patrick Dane's profile was unmistakable. And across from him, the teen with his mother's bone structure and his father's eyes. A speculative caption ran beneath it. The heir to the Dane Empire. By noon the next day, reporters swarmed the block around Elena's apartment. Someone had already knocked on the neighbor's door offering $10,000 for a quote. Elena pulled the curtains shut and unplugged the landline. The air felt thinner. Tighter. Like the walls themselves had started to pulse with anxiety. Alex sat at the kitchen table, phone buzzing every few seconds with messages from classmates, strangers, and people claiming to be cousins. He didn't respond to any of them. His hands shook too much to type. "You need to get out of here," Elena said. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed, face pale. "Just for a few days. Until it blows over." "To where?" he asked. "Mars." Patrick had already offered his private estate. Offered to send a car. Elena had refused it immediately. But now, even she looked uncertain. "You don't have to talk to him," she said. "You just need to be somewhere safe." Alex's laugh was sharp. Bitter. "I don't even know what safe means anymore." Still, by evening, he agreed. When Patrick's driver arrived in a sleek black SUV, Alex hugged his mom like it might be the last time. She clung to him longer than usual, whispering things into his ear he couldn't quite hold onto. Just feelings. Warmth. That ache of love stretched too far. The estate was nothing like Alex imagined. It wasn't flashy. No fountains. No gold chandeliers. Just quiet. Clean lines. A long stretch of forest around a glass-walled house that overlooked a lake still half-frozen. It didn't feel like wealth. It felt like someone had tried to build peace. Patrick greeted him at the door. No staff. No cameras. Just him, in a hoodie and jeans, like a man trying not to scare a wild animal. "I'm not staying long," Alex warned. Understood. Inside, they sat in a room lined with books. Not tech manuals or business strategy tomes, poetry, history, old medical journals. The kind of books you keep when you're trying to remember who you were before the money. "I didn't leak the photo," Patrick said. "I've been trying to keep this quiet." Alex nodded, not quite ready to believe him, but not ready to accuse either. Patrick leaned forward. "There's something I need to tell you. Something you don't know." Alex's jaw clenched. "There's always something I don't know. I never signed the adoption papers." Alex blinked. "What?" Patrick hesitated. "Legally, you were never formally adopted. The paperwork got lost in a hospital transition. New software system. Elena raised you like her own. No one ever challenged it. But technically, you're still a Dane." The words hit like a punch. Alex's mind reeled. "So what? That makes me what, your heir? It means you have a claim. To the company. To everything." Alex stood abruptly. "I don't want your money." Patrick looked up calmly. "Then don't take it. But know what it means. Because the world is going to chase you now. Not for who you are, but for what you represent." Alex paced the room. His head throbbed. I don't want to represent anything. I didn't want to either, Patrick said. But you don't always get to choose. Alex turned on him. You chose to run. Yes, Patrick said. And it cost me everything. I won't let it cost you too. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He stood at the edge of the frozen lake, watching the sky darken into navy. He wanted the world to stop spinning. Just long enough to think. He didn't know if he was Samuel or Alex. If he was a ghost, a mistake, a stolen child, or something entirely new. All he knew was that if he didn't take control of his story, someone else would. And in a Manhattan boardroom miles away, a legal team had already started preparing paperwork to make Samuel Dane the legal successor to a billion-dollar empire. Whether he wanted it or not. 3 days passed. The media storm only grew louder. Talk shows speculated. Blogs unearthed hospital records, grainy yearbook photos, old social media posts from classmates who now swore they always knew Alex was different. Headlines called him the billionaire's lost son and the silent heir. And through it all, Alex said nothing. He stayed at the estate, walking the woods, scribbling in a notebook, watching the lake thaw. Every time Patrick asked what he wanted to do, Alex would just say, not yet. Elena called every night. At first, just to make sure he was eating. Then, to ask when he was coming home. Each time he said, soon. But soon didn't feel real anymore. Nothing did. Until the press found her. A photographer snapped Elena outside her school, hounded her at the grocery store, even shouted questions from across the street about kidnapping and adoption fraud. That broke him. He told Patrick the next morning. I want a press conference. Patrick nodded. Whatever you need. But Alex shook his head. No suits. No podium. Just me. Her. And you. One camera. One truth. And so it was. They chose a small room at a neutral community center downtown. Plain white walls. 3 folding chairs. A single news crew allowed in. Elena didn't want to do it at first. But when she looked at her son, taller now, eyes tired but sharp, mouth drawn with purpose, she saw the men beneath the boy. And she knew he needed this. The camera started rolling. Alex spoke first. My name is Alex Rivera. I was born Samuel Dane. I didn't know that until 3 weeks ago. He paused, glancing at both the people beside him. This is my mother, he said, gesturing to Elena. She raised me. Protected me. Loved me when no one else did. Elena's hands were clenched in her lap. But she held still. And this is my father, Alex continued. By blood. Patrick Dane. He lost his wife. Lost himself. And lost me. Patrick's mouth tightened. He nodded once. I don't care what the world says I should be, Alex said. An heir. A headline. A symbol. I'm not stepping into some empire just because someone left a throne open. He looked directly into the camera. I'm not claiming a legacy. I'm writing one. There was silence. The reporter didn't ask questions. There were no follow-ups. They left the building quietly. The footage went viral within hours, but not in the way anyone expected. There were no shouting pundits, no scandals uncovered. Just a boy claiming his voice in a world desperate to use it for him. A week later, Patrick called a board meeting. He announced he would remain CEO, for now. But he also revealed a new philanthropic branch of the company, to be run independently. Funded entirely by Dane Global Holdings. Its mission, support children who fall through the cracks. He named it the Rivera Foundation. Alex didn't attend the launch. He was in Queens, helping Elena repaint the kitchen. They didn't talk much about Patrick after that. But something in their silences changed. They weren't hiding anymore. On his 18th birthday, Alex opened the velvet box again. The chain still gleamed. He didn't wear it. But he didn't put it away either. He left it on the windowsill. Some truths, once unearthed, aren't meant to be buried again. They're meant to be lived with. Not as weights, but as reminders. That family is not always blood. That love is not always loud. And that even a boy with 2 names can build one life, honestly, painfully, fully, on his own terms.